Sweet. Come on, piggies. We're back. Homesteads and Homeschools, episode number 31. Here today, I'm going to have a guy named Josh on, and he runs the program. He runs the show. He takes care of things over at White Mountains Livestock Company. We talked about pork. Talked mostly about raising pigs and kind of what goes into that, if you couldn't tell from the lovely little introduction there. But yeah, Josh runs the show over there, and we talked kind of how he got into the pork business, I guess, and some of a little bit of the regulations kind of behind what's going on. As you'll hear, he can't sell to just anyone. It's pretty fairly localized. But we got into some of the regulations, some of what differentiates him from other pork producers in the sense of definitions of words. What does it mean to be organic or all natural or any of these things? It's kind of scary, when you think about all these different terms and what they mean. And when I think we've all come to realize that words, definitions don't always mean what they mean. Cage-free doesn't always mean cage-free in the sense that, that the chicken's out in the grass and free-ranging or whatever you want to call it. So, we kind of talked about that. It was a good time, fun time. Enjoyed myself. I think Josh enjoyed himself. If you are in the Arizona area and if you want to pick up some pork, check it out. He's got some good stuff. And definitely check out his website. And there's lots of good information on there. And he's got some fun YouTube videos, good YouTube videos with information in there that is pretty helpful. It's good stuff to use as a resource. So without further ado, let's go plant those liberty seeds with Josh over at White Mountains Livestock.
I got too much for just one of four. Won't you pass that apple pie? Got too much for just one of four. Won't you pass that apple pie? I said, hey, Miss Rhythm is king. Killed a pig with a tambourine. Everybody got happy, everybody got glad till the weather turned warm and then the pig went bad. Too much for just one of four. Won't you pass that apple pie?
All right, my guest today is Josh, who runs the program over at White Mountains Livestock. He's got a whole bunch of stuff going on there that you can check out on his YouTube page, but I will let him tell you a little bit about that later. So Josh, thanks for coming on the show today. I know things can get busy, especially when you have little ones running around. You're trying to juggle around their schedules. So thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
Not a problem.
So yeah, I mean, you're out there in Arizona. I'm over here in Georgia. Pretty toasty now. But so what do you got going on outside? I know you kind of. It's not just livestock, right? You have more of a little bit of a homestead setup that you guys take care of for yourselves, correct?
Kinda. We're actually my wife ended up with a better job. She took over a GM position at Little Caesars over here. So we actually moved up here with some friends of ours, and we're staying on their property right now in a travel trailer until we get everything worked out. And finding a place is rough up here, but we got a little parcel property front that we picked up that we're kind of doing everything on. Got a garden going over here, which is interesting. I've actually never grown anything that my livestock usually eat. Usually it's the livestock that I do. But, the wife's been logging a lot of hours at work, so I kind of took over that. So I got that going. I got the hogs going. I got the horses in training. Hoping to move into cattle in the next 2 years, be ideal.
All right. Did you grow up growing things, gardening, or working with livestock or stuff like that? Or is this something that came onto you later in life? You decided this would be a good idea?
Actually, I grew up doing some stuff with cattle. My uncle did hogs when I was younger. I never really had too much of an interest in them. And then finally, I ended up taking an IT job, moving into the city, and ended up going running as a bull rider on the pro tour for a couple of years. Got hurt, and kind of had to figure out my way back. And what felt natural was coming back to this. It's kind of how I grew up, and it's where I love. If I can see my neighbors, then I'm too close to town.
So how long you been back messing around with the animals then?
Mostly for the last 3 years or so, I've really been back into it. The business actually came about. I was in the Valley for a while down in Phoenix working in IT. Me and my better half got back together after 18 years. And so I, moved up here to be by her, and, decided, it's working in the Valley all the time, driving back and forth, it was about a 2-hour drive each way. I was like, it's just too much. So I started looking for stuff up here. And then next thing I know, budget cutbacks, I got hit with the axe on that one. So, an IT guy in a small town, it's hard to find work. So the wife goes, well, soon to be wife, go ahead and you need to do something with the pigs. You're knowledgeable, and swine really well, and you need to do something with that. So we just kind of ran with it.
Okay, so the pigs, the swine, I guess came first, kind of as a reaction almost to trying to figure out what to do, how to make some money.
Well, we originally started doing it because like most people, I don't like store-bought meat. I don't like the dyes they put in it to get the color. I don't like the antibiotics and the chemicals and stuff that they use. In even organic meat production, there's still 32 synthetic, things that are allowed to be used according to the USDA. And to me, if it's synthetic, it's not organic. You can't, you have to pick one or the other. You can't do both. So we just,
you can if you control definitions. You can.
You're right. So we decided that we're doing our own for us anyway. We're not organic. We actually fall closer in line with holistic than anything else. Our hogs, they don't see a needle a day in their life. Since typically swine in general are iron deficient, we let them root. So we keep steel plates around the pen. That way, when it rains, it oxidizes and replenishes the iron in the soil. So we actually just let them root to get all their iron. If we have any that get sick and need, treatment with antibiotics or anything like that, we actually pull them out of our rotation for what we sell. And we use those specifically for us, for our own consumption instead of what we sell off to our customers.
Right. Now, so how does that work? Things I know you're not certified organic per se, right?
Correct.
And is that because, I don't know, you don't agree or you don't necessarily follow their guidelines specifically enough, or is it just like a cost thing? Or because I know sometimes, it's incredibly expensive to be certified organic. And then, like you said, if you have, an animal that needs to be taken out of the herd because it's sick and it needs, something to stay alive, it's not organic anymore. And then your whole herd has to be, recertified or looked at again. And, so how does that work for you guys? How'd you make that decision?
Well, with the organic, some of the chemicals and stuff that they do allow actually, and certain antibiotics are allowed to still be considered organic. I actually have an article on our website that goes through, it links out to the USDA's list of approved synthetic chemicals or whatever they call it for what's considered organic meat production. I actually broke down all of those, what those chemicals and items and stuff are, and then link out to their official document listing those. I actually put that up, I think, last month on our website, because I think it's something people should know if they go to the store. In my mind, organic in itself is just a marketing gimmick.
Mm-hmm.
There's certain chemicals that you wouldn't want to ingest that they allow to use as disinfectants and stuff like that in the hog pens. Well, anybody with half of a brain knows that those chemicals can be absorbed through the skin and still get into the meat. So even if it's a 58-day hold time before the animal can be processed, well, there's still residual from that stuff in the meat, and it just doesn't sit right with me. So because of that, we decided, we want to keep all of ours as absolutely close to natural as we absolutely can. We keep them in pens. We let them roll in mud. We don't use concrete floors. The mud serves a couple of purposes. For worming, we use food grade diatomaceous earth, which most people know is just crushed up seashells. But it helps with deworming, and it also helps keep their digestional tract flowing properly. So because of that, actually, all of our animals get it. Our chickens, dogs, hogs, donkey, horses, everything.
Yeah, good deal. I did not know that about the diatomaceous earth being used as a wormer in pigs. I'm not that familiar with pigs. We've thought about it a little bit here and there, maybe raising one or two for ourselves, but haven't quite gotten that far yet. Trying to go slow,
Word of advice: when you get them, if you get them young, get them freshly weaned, and then just spend time with them, mess with them, pet them. I've got a gilt that we're breeding. We haven't decided we're going to do it later this year or early next year. I don't want her pregnant through the summer or through the winter, just because this last winter we actually got to 7 below up here. And, we have to increase their feed through the winter because they're burning off so many calories to deal with the cold just to keep themselves warm. And then you have to increase when they're pregnant and nursing anyway. So I really don't want to go up that much as far as feed goes. So
yeah, what kind of hogs do you raise?
Ours are actually a combination of Hampshire, Yorkshire, and Duroc. The Duroc is where you get your good hams from, your good pork chops. The Hampshire and Yorkshire are actually better as far as like bacon pigs, so they get the better bellies to get your better bacon production off of.
Okay, is that I don't know, is that what you grew up around, or is that what you were familiar with, or did you have to kind of familiarize yourself with them?
I had to familiarize myself with them. It was hogs in general. My uncle did them. I was never really that much into them. I was around for processing, but that was about it. After that, it was just taking the last couple of years and just diving myself into as much information, as much knowledge from reputable sources that I could get my hands on, and then digesting that and trying different things and figuring out what worked for us and what didn't.
So, how many pigs do you guys have on hand at any given time? I guess. I mean, I know, if you just have a litter, you're going to have a whole bunch more. But then if right after you send them off to get processed.
So we want all of our pigs, hogs, to basically live a great life and then just have one bad day. So we go out, we mess with them, we scratch them behind the ear. They love that. And we treat them like their family. We treat them almost like pets and like a part of the family. Because at the end of the day, we butcher in 6 to 8 months. So for that period, that's exactly what they are. They're just a part of the family. So what we typically do right now is we have one gilt that we'll be breeding within the next year. She'll be getting bred for the first time. We've got 2 pigs right now that are roughly 50, 60 pounds each right now. So we keep 3 at the moment. We had 2 others that we took into processing. They were actually heavier than normal. They were right around 500 pounds a piece when we processed them. Usually we go at about 285 pounds live weight, so we can get a better quality cut. We focus, especially for anything that we're going to sell to customers, we focus more on quality than we do quantity. At the end of the day, I want people, when they have one of our pork chops or, cut into our ham, they look at it, it's got that nice fat layer for flavor, but it's not overly fatty like you get in a lot of stuff in the store.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to have a good quality product, otherwise people aren't going to come back. It doesn't make sense to give them something subpar. go somewhere else, Um, but I'm kind of curious about the pigs. So it's a mix of three. I guess what kind of what generation are you working on, or
Well, the breeder,
you know what I mean? Because when they all get hybridized and eventually certain qualities will come up that might not have been there in the parents, or do is it like I don't know, like tomatoes or something where the first generation is really good and then you have to go back and make that cross again, for the second generation, or can you keep kind of working off that first generation of piglets?
well, kind of how we do it right now, anyway, is we actually get our babies from a breeder as soon as they're weaned from the sow. So they actually have the breeds that they actually breed together. So we're running typically, first or second generation. Once we breed our own, we're going to start really looking at the characteristics that we want to bring out more based off the cuts that we've gotten from previous processes. And then we'll start adjusting our breeding that way.
Yeah, that makes sense. That selective breeding over time and get you a product you want to work with. And that's the way it should be.
Yeah, temperament is huge with hogs. Mainly because, when they get up to 400, 500 pounds live weight, especially for your breeders, if you really want them docile. So you don't want something that, we had our two babies we put down with our gilt, actually in a pen right next to hers, because she got depressed when we took the other two to the plant. So she wouldn't eat, she wouldn't drink. She was down for 2 or 3 days. And, I was sitting out there with her for hours every day, keeping her company and trying to get her spirits back up. So we went ahead and took the babies down, put them in a pen right next to her. Well, she blew through the fence and got them in with her. So I was like, you gotta be kidding. I mean, we're using horse panels down there for them, and she blew right through it. And so I was like, okay, well, we need to split them back out because, they're still babies. They're just weaned. They're about a little over a month old. She's 450, 500 pounds. So I went in there to grab them, and she actually chased me over the fence. So finally, I was like, you know what? She's not hurting them. They're thriving. They're doing well. She's got her spirits back. We'll just leave them, and they're still in there now.
That's funny, man. Yeah, that's one of the things you learn with animals when you start working with animals that are a little bit bigger. If you can't control them, man, look out, because it's dangerous. It can I don't know, but do you do the processing? You don't do the processing, right? I know you're certified, or you have a certified processor or something. Is that?
We do. We actually use Malapai Meat Packing up in Taylor, which is, I think their plant's like 10 minutes from our property. So we actually run it through them because they're all Arizona Department of Agriculture certified. So anything that we get out of there, except anything that's smoked or cured, because they don't have the certification for that. But anything other than that we get out of there, we're completely good to resell. I could do the processing. I mean, I've done our own hogs, but reselling, then there's a whole nother series of licensing and inspections that are involved in that, at least in Arizona. And I mean, the cost behind it, it's pretty high. So, with funding not being, to that level, we're holding off. We might move into it later on. We might not. We're just going to kind of play it by ear.
Yeah, it's interesting, that's the way it is. You raise these pigs up and you give them the best life they can, and then like you can't be the one to finish it off, to see it all the way through.
Right.
I mean, you can for yours, but not for what you're gonna resell. At least not financially.
Right. It sucks. It does, because and the last two that I did were two of our hogs from last year, and I don't. A lot of people use a 22 behind the ear to put them down, and my worry is I've seen people do that and it not go well, and then the animal's running around suffering. So I used a 45 which I always have glued to me anyway, just because, we do have a lot of coyote issues and stuff like that out here. But I use that and just made an X from like the right ear to the left eye, and then did the same from the other side. And then I just placed a shot right where those two imaginary lines intersect. And there wasn't a squeal. There wasn't, as soon as it hit, they just dropped. It was done, which is exactly what we wanted. No suffering. So when we went to the plant, one of the very first questions I asked them after their certification was, how do you put them down? Do you use a captive bolt? What they do is they do a 22 behind the ear. So, but they don't, I've watched them do a couple. They have no issues. The guy that they have doing it, he knows his stuff. He knows his anatomy extremely well on these animals. So he gets it every time, first shot. So, so we decided, okay, we agree with how they're doing it. The animal doesn't suffer. They don't want to see the animal suffer. Their stance, as far as, I guess you'd call it ethically, is the same as what ours is. So, we do all of our processing through there.
I mean, it is what it is to each individual, but I think for me anyway, that was always something that's been kind of important, you don't want to see an animal suffer. Like, that's not, not very many people do. And the people that do are, not sure I want to know them, but,
I agree.
How big is that plant? Is it like a big process? Is it just kind of more of a,
it's a small privately owned place. They run, let's see, we usually, because they process on Monday mornings is their kill day. And then we drop them off on Sunday night because they don't want them to eat for about 24 hours before processing. Because if they do, then when they go to actually clean the carcasses out, there's increased risk of fecal matter falling into the meat, stuff like that. And that's meat they got to cut out. And I mean, if you get it real, like within 30 seconds, and you get it washed out real good, you're okay. But their policy is if fecal matter at all touches the meat, then that meat gets cut out. So it's pretty small. I think when we dropped the last two off dropped them off on a Sunday night, there was one other hog there and I think 6 cattle, but they do sheep and they do, all that in there too, wild game. So
that's cool. And I know you got a little one sleeping. Do you have how is just one kid you have, or do you have a couple of
he's actually 17. He just, as a teenager, likes to sleep all day.
All right. Huh.
But he's actually inside. I'm outside right now. So
I guess he's a little older. You can kind of understand it a little bit.
Yeah.
Does it phase him at all? Because I know, I have, my oldest one is 9, and the youngest one is 2. And, we used to do like meat rabbits, and, it's one of those things that you they learn, I guess, as they just kind of see it comes and goes. But I imagine with some of the larger animals that are around for longer, that you actually, really are interacting with daily, multiple times, those, you can build a relationship, and it can be tough to put that animal down and to turn it into food.
Right.
But was that ever an issue for your guy?
Well, with him, the biggest issue he's had was a coyote to come across the property last year, and he ran out because we've been losing chickens left and right.
Yeah,
he ran in, grabbed my 22, and shot it. When we went up, he calls, "Oh my God, I got a coyote!" And so me and the other half came home and we went and looked at it. And it was probably about a 6-month-old female pup.
Yeah.
And, he felt really bad about that. He's like, I didn't want to shoot a pup. And, it's like, look, with the amount of them that are out here and the issues that we're having, she'd have had more. I mean, she was inside the fence line. She was running to the chicken coop. So it's not like he just did it for sport. But the hogs and, and the larger stuff like that, he really doesn't have too much of an issue with. He doesn't really go down there and mess with them. He might help me haul water down to him or something once in a while, but for the most part, he just stays away. He's one of those kids that it would have an effect on him. He would have a hard time with it as much as he wants to act like it doesn't.
Yeah, no, it's tough, man. I remember as a kid, hunting and stuff. And there was a phase when didn't, because it it bothered me. But then when you kind of think about it and make all the connections, I feel better about doing it myself than
Right.
getting my meat at Walmart.
Yeah. My big thought is, it's okay to feel bad about, butchering out an animal. There's nothing wrong with that. You want to make sure that, one, above all, you're absolutely grateful for that animal's sacrifice to put food on your table. Which is as corny as it sounds. These hogs, after 6-8 months, I'm pretty attached to them. I'm in there interacting with them every single day, multiple times a day. So you get really attached to them, and it's definitely hard to make that shot and put them down. But I always tell myself, that's why we've got them. We give them food names, except for the gilt we got now. Actually, she was a runt with a umbilical hernia when we got her. So our breeder gave her to us, and they told us, we don't think she's going to survive. Well, now she's pushing 500 pounds. My other half, absolute animal lover, extremely knowledgeable. The kid, he worked with our vet for quite a while, so he learned a ton from him. So that's great to have out here. But you've got to be grateful, and you've got to be thankful for that animal for their sacrifice. Because at the end of the day, they're giving up their life so that we can continue to live our lives.
Yeah. Yep. And it's definitely, it's one of those things. It's important to think about and to remember and keep that in mind. And that it's not, and I think you lose that a little bit when you are just getting your meat saran wrapped and, you have no idea really where it came from or how it got there. It just is on your plate or in your shopping cart or whatever. But
the big issue with a lot of the mass-produced stuff too is just the way the animals are treated. I mean, we got Smithfield Foods has a hog farm right just down the road from us, and they actually, they're pretty good about how the treatment of their animals. I'm not going to knock them. They actually do pretty good by them. But you can go on YouTube and you can look it up and you can see some of the conditions that a lot of these animals are left in, like farrowing pens. I know in Arizona they're illegal, because it doesn't allow the sow to move. She can't turn around or move forward or back. She can lay down, she can stand up, and that's how she spends her life. And that is wrong as it gets. It puts more stress on the animal. It's not healthy, because then they're laying in their own waste, and it's just it really makes me angry to see animals treated like that. I mean, ours are in a pen. We don't pasture them just due to space, but so they're in a pen. But that pen, it's a big pen. We've got a couple trees in there that they can, they have for shade. We've got shade up for them. We keep a mud hole for them so they can roll in mud. We keep 55-gallon water barrel out there for them to drink out of. Actually, the YouTube video I'm getting ready to shoot later today, I'm actually making a second one for them so I can keep 110 gallons down there for them, because we don't have water line runs, so we have to haul it with a tractor. So the more we have down there, the better, because hauling it. Let's face it, hauling water is just a pain.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's one of my projects. I think right now is to get water run to different areas on the property at this point, because moving water, trucking water, dragging hoses, doing whatever, it's a nightmare. So
it is. I just use a 55-gallon plastic food grade barrel. The one I actually have was previously filled with soy sauce, so you rub it out real good, and that's the big thing for any of your listeners that that want to do something like that. It's great to do. You just got to really be conscious of what was in it previously, especially with the plastic barrels, because they do have pores that these things will seep into, and it'll seep back out into the water once it's full. So you just really want to be conscious of what was previously in it before you decide to use it for that.
Yeah. I found one on the side of the road the other day, and I forget what it was, but it was some pesticide. And I was like, yeah, I'll pass on that one.
Right.
But I'm curious about the business side of things. How did you guys how did you get into that, I guess? How did you start marketing your pork, or was it, you had some friends that you gave it to, and how did that come to fruition?
So it was, before we moved up here, we were down in Geisela, just outside of Payson. Every month we do a big bonfire and barbecue, and, have all our friends over, and, the usual adult beverages and, all that. And they fell in love with the pork. When we did the last two, we had a bunch of people over to help with it. We did a big bonfire and barbecue that night, threw tenderloin, a fresh tenderloin on the grill and all that. They fell in love with it. They're like, oh, this is absolutely amazing. Well, at that point, we were still playing with what we were feeding. We were still trying to get that figured out. And it still came out really good. So, my other half looks at me. She goes, you need to do this as a business. You're looking for work. You're not having any luck. She goes, maybe, you've got the knowledge. Maybe this is something that, you could do. You've got the technical ability. And so, we started talking about it. And I was real hesitant to at first. I was like, man, but I've got, all these major pork producers. If you look at market price on lean hogs right now on the commodities market, it's running on average, I'm not sure what it is today, but, a couple months ago, is it like 60 cents a pound? I'm like, I can't even feed them to market weight for that. I'd lose money just selling market like that. So we started doing whole and half hogs, a little bit on the side. The guy who actually came in, and bought 15% of the company because he wanted to be in early on it. A coworker of mine, which is it's great, but he goes, I want a whole hog. So, last year we've got everything set up, we can invoice and do online payments and all that kind of stuff. So what he did was he just come in, bought a whole hog right there. I was like, well, I don't even have the hog yet. And I was like, we're not even picking her up for a couple of months because, we're waiting for this litter to hit the ground from our breeder. And he's like, oh, that's okay. I was like, well, we can get to you by end of next year, if you want to just put a deposit and then, pay the balance off by then. He's like, oh, no, I'll just pay the whole thing now. So one of the two we got out there now is actually his, but he goes, man, he goes, you need to do this. He goes, you need to run with it. So between him and my other half hammered me, I was like, fine. So we went out, we got the LLC taken care of, which I actually got that back from the Corporation Commission 5 hours after I filed the articles of organization. So that actually goes into full effect on the 23rd of this month because I fat fingered it. It was supposed to be last month, but so as far as marketing right now, we've got the YouTube channel where, we show what we feed, how much we feed, different things that we got going around here, not just the hogs. I'm actually in the process of building a new chicken coop out of old wooden pallets, which is actually so far that first one's been pretty popular. So it's just basically, what we're doing around here. I mean, it's a part of the business, but we're not, I'm not trying to sell. I'm trying to give knowledge. I want to be able to, any customer, potential customer, I want to be able to give them more than what they're getting, than what they're paying from us. So if they come in and they buy, 5 pounds of pork chops, so like 2 pork chops, I want to be able to give them more. If they're paying, $30 for that, well, I want to give them $100 worth of knowledge back.
Right. Yeah. Well, just that one article on the antibiotics, the USDA list of whatever the synthetic chemicals you can use or whatever. That's to me that's hugely interesting, and that's something that needs to be shared. More people need to be aware that organic doesn't mean organic, cage free doesn't mean cage free. This all natural does not mean that it is all natural. It is this, adulterated definition of a term that doesn't mean what you think it means. I think when you get down to, smaller people, building businesses and trying to, work one-on-one with the consumer and really build a product, that the consumer wants and can relate to. I don't know. I think it's important, and I think it's good to see.
Well, and that was the big reason I even wrote that article was, I was like, that's information that people need to know. I mean, they're going to the store and they're paying more money for organic, thinking, oh well, there's no chemicals, and that's not the case. I mean, to me, my personal opinion is that falls under false advertising.
Yeah.
I mean, it could just be individual perception, but or people think organic means no chemicals and all that, and then they see this, list that the USDA puts out of what's approved and what's not, and they're like, wait a minute, there's a lot of chemicals in there. How is that organic? So we focus ours, and we can't use the term organic for our pork because we're not certified. Eventually, we will just because that allows us to reach out to a broader market. But we're still going to do things just the way we do them. The pork. So I did a test a while back. We went to the store. We picked up some pork chops that were USDA certified organic, and then we took some of our pork chops that have never seen a needle a day in their life. And we grain feed them start to finish. And we grilled them up and we actually compared them, and you can actually taste the difference. I mean, granted, you've got, time that it's allowed to sit in the stores before it has to be sold. So, there is that difference there. But I mean, the flavor in itself was completely different. So then I got to looking, and that's how I found that list that the USDA puts out. And I was like, I can't believe more people need to know this. This isn't something that's widely known. So I wrote the article on it and I published that on our website. And then I shared it out on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. And, I even got the picture on Pinterest, I want to get that word out because that's something that, even people who are doing it themselves, or who might be looking into, maybe doing pork as a business, they immediately want to run out and go organic because that's what, society or the USDA or whoever else is telling them that's the only way to go. That's the best way to go. When in reality, it's nothing more than just a marketing gimmick.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. You think of organic and this idea of like, a pretty pink pig in a little tutu, like playing in the field, and and who knows, they're in this boxed in cage, and they're like you said, they can't move forward, they can't go backwards, and who knows what kind of chemicals they can have and what they it's total.
Well, even some of the disinfectants that they're allowed to use in the pens and around the animals, it's like I wouldn't want that. I don't want that in my body, and it's still, no matter how hard they try, if they use it around the animals, it's going to absorb into their skin. And I mean, yeah, they say generally speaking, 30 days, those kind of things are clear from their system. But there's always residual that's left in the meat that you can't get rid of, and it's, that's why we actually tell people when they ask us, are your pigs, are your, is your pork organic? We say no. We're actually closer to what you would call holistic. They're grain fed start to finish. They don't get injections. If they do get sick and, they have to be treated with antibiotics, then we pull them out of what we sell and we use them for our own personal, because I'd rather, have to deal with that than tell a customer, hey, we don't use this stuff. Then all of a sudden we slip one in. That's garbage. That's horrible.
Yeah. So is that what you mean when you say holistic then? I've not heard that before, I don't think.
So basically, it's nothing that is synthetic, imitation. If it's not real, they don't get it.
Okay.
So with ours, we actually use it's corn, soy, which actually soy is actually a new thing. We were using wheat Midland before because of the higher protein content, but the price of that went up. And I didn't want to have to skyrocket our prices to compensate for that. And we can get soy in bulk. So, it's grains, it's corn, it's soy. There's a little bit of wheat in there. It's not the Midland, but there's some wheat in there. And then we mix in the diatomaceous earth. We pick it up from the farm. And that's what they eat, and how much they get, depends on their age, but that's what they get. Plenty of water and, um, brewer's yeast is absolutely great, but I'm still playing with that idea, trying to figure out, well, is that going to still fit into our narrative, what we're selling our product as, or is it not? If I can legitimately, and that's the key word, legitimately justify it and stay within that all natural, then that's what we'll do. But if not, then hey, we won't do it.
Yeah, figure those things out, and and do what you can, I guess. But all right, so if people want to get pork from you, or they want to check out your YouTube videos, or see what else you've written, and watch you put together a chicken coop, where should they go? What's the best way to find you, I guess, to see what you're doing?
The best way to find all of our social media stuff is whitemountainslivestock.com. Up at the top corner, they've got, it's got links to our YouTube channel, our Twitter page, our Facebook page, Instagram, Pinterest, all of that. So that's the one place they can go to find everything. If they want to get pork from us, as long as they're in Arizona, which is where we're legal to sell, they can get us on the website. We're working towards USDA certification so that we can go nationwide. I don't want to keep people, in Maryland or, down there with you in Georgia that are like, well, we want good pork too, but we can't really get it, so we're going for that just so we can legally sell nationwide.
Is that that's a certification thing? You're certified through Arizona, but you haven't paid your money to the USDA yet, so you can't sell it to somebody in New Mexico, or what? How does that work?
Well, in Arizona, how the certification works is we ourselves don't have to be certified, but the plant that does our processing does. So since they do the processing, they package it. It's inspected by the Arizona Department of Agriculture at the plant multiple times. We actually get the lard back, or get the fat back from them, because my other half renders lard with it, and we see the stamp from the inspector, in a couple different places on it where it's been inspected multiple times. So as long as it's packaged there, we're fine. With obviously with health department okay and everything for us storing and that stuff, but so yeah, we ourselves don't have to be certified, but wherever our pork is processed and packaged, it does.
Even though they're certified through Arizona, the state, whatever, the state health department or whatever, you can't ship that to like New Mexico or Utah or Maine.
Right.
So how then at that point you have to get USDA certified, or you have to find a processor that's USDA certified, or what's
either or. Right now, there is the only USDA processor I've been able to find in the state is down in Tucson, which is like 6 hours away from us. So, it's, if somebody out of state wants to order pork, and have it overnight it to them, we could absolutely do that, but it has to be a large order, because we have to be able to cover the fuel cost of hauling the animal, 6 to 8 hours away, plus the processing costs, and it's expensive. Our prices, how we come up with them is we went to the store, we looked at what was there, and then we added $1 on per pound for ours. And everybody that's had it raves about how much better it is. So I'm like, well, okay, if the customers are screaming it's so much better, then I feel okay adding $1 per pound on. That might change later. Luckily, and I was watching this huge, and a lot of your listeners might have been too, was the corn planting in the U.S. this year.
Yeah.
Delay. I saw an article yesterday that the USDA put out that they're as of yesterday, they were at 92% planted. Which I was really excited to see, because I was terrified of what the corn prices would do next year.
Yeah, I've seen it a little bit, and I don't know, just down here where I am, it just started raining last week. It rained, I think, maybe the week before, but we had like 2 or 3 weeks where it did not rain. It was 90 plus 100 degrees a couple days, and the corn it stunted, it withered. Since it started raining, it's come back a bit, but there's guys that the big guys that have the $50,000, $100,000 watering setups, it doesn't affect them too much. But, the guys that have like 5 acres of corn that don't have the big, irrigations, they get screwed. They get hammered. They can't, and it just, so yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that goes.
Well, anymore, agriculture, from us being just a small startup, trying to navigate through all the licensing and, we've got, like our egg producers license from Arizona Department of Ag for nest run eggs. So not graded, not certified, unwashed, which to me is perfectly fine. They'll hold months like that. But then the health department comes in and says, no, they have to be washed and they have to be stored at 45 degrees Fahrenheit. Well, then that negates what nest run eggs are based on the Department of Ag certification or, license. So that completely contradicts itself. You can't get a straight answer out of either one of them, and it's hard for the little guy to come in without a lot of money. I mean, we're starting literally, $1,000 is what we've done is what we have invested into everything. We don't have a lot of money, like a lot of people out there, trying to, get more and more into self-sustainability. So, for us trying to navigate all this political garbage and legal, these legal mazes it's rough.
Yeah, no, it is. And it's, I don't know if it's necessarily built like that. But it definitely doesn't tend to help people that need help. It helps the people that have all the money, that can help make the rules and help,
Right.
help it's just,
I would love to be able to say, you know what, we can sell nationwide starting tomorrow. I would absolutely love to be able to. But, unfortunately, legally our hands are tied. We can do Arizona and that's fine. But even then, if they come for local pickup, not a problem. If they catch us at a farmer's market, not a problem. But we still can't ship it to them. We can't drive it to them because we're not licensed for transport. And it's still, it's a nightmare. But, it's something that we're working through. I mean, at the end of the day, our goal is to be able to provide the best quality pork that people have been able to get their hands on that doesn't have the chemicals. Okay, did you know that the pork in the store, when it gets that nice red coloring, that's actually a dye? So, like when we process it out, it's almost white. It doesn't. I mean, it's got a little bit of a pink tint to it, but it's not. It doesn't have that deep, that bright, that red coloring on it because we don't use a dye.
it's crazy. It's crazy what is out there, and it's crazy how much it costs to try to get started when it really shouldn't cost that much.
Well, I mean, there's multiple licenses, for the hogs, there's one. You don't have to deal with the health department and all that if you're doing live hogs, which is one thing that we do. In case somebody wants to pick up, a freshly weaned pig and take it home and raise it themselves from a head or, to process themselves or whatever, we do that. We do market weight hogs, which is actually our specialty. But then recently we decided, there's a lot of people, they come in, they want to buy a market weight hog, or they want to buy, fresh pork, but they can't hold, 150, 200 pounds of pork. They're maybe retired or they just don't have that kind of storage, So my other half goes, well, why don't we do cuts? So then that just rolled in a whole nother set of licensing and inspections and everything else, so we can do cuts.
Oh, man.
Freezer with an external temperature display and all this. So when we go to a farmer's market, we have to pack it in dry ice. Eggs have to be stored 45 degrees. You need a separate refrigerator for that. And it's hard. It really is. But, our commitment to giving people something that's real, something that isn't full of all the garbage, it's strong enough that we're working through all of that. We're dealing with all of that because at the end of the day, it's not about how much of a hassle it is for us. It's about what we give our customers, the quality that they can have to feed their families. The hormones that they put in hogs. I mean, there's a reason all of our little daughters are maturing so early. They think, oh, it's genetics. No, it's all the hormones. It has more hormone in it than any other animal out there. Pork is right up there with it because they want to cut their feed costs, and to me, I'll charge a little bit more to be able to stay away from that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think people are starting to figure that out. And there's definitely people out there that are willing to pay more to avoid those things, you know?
And
So.
it's great too, seeing people that, I mean, you look on YouTube, you look at some of the homesteading channels out there. There's a guy down in Alabama. His channel is Cog Hill Farms, and he does great stuff. I love actually him and Justin Rhodes. I watch their stuff actually quite a bit. I don't watch mine because, I kind of cringe when I do, but I'm not a video guy, I'm just a guy raising livestock, and, so I guess mine, from what a couple people told me, are more real because it doesn't have the big productions and, this kind of stuff, but whatever, but, I want people to be able to get natural, and seeing more and more people doing their research and reading up on this stuff, and looking to be self-sustainable. I love seeing it. I would love to go back to the way it was in the mid 1800s. I'd be perfectly okay with that. I'll get rid of my truck and just take my horse everywhere. I'd be perfectly okay with that. And seeing more and more people going that way, wanting to be self-sufficient, not have to rely on things. I think it's a great thing. And I'm really happy to see people doing it.
It's picking up steam, and I think it's picking up for reasons, that
oh yeah,
are deeper. So
people are wising up. Social media, as many negatives as it has, it's got a lot of great positives too to help get word out to people.
Yeah, it has. I was thinking about that the other day. It is a very interesting tool. It cuts both ways real hard,
Oh yeah, and it's hard to really. So, okay, like Facebook, any kind of advertising on there. Now, everybody's saying they're undervalued right now, but you still got to have a chunk of change to put into it. Same thing with Twitter, LinkedIn, any of the social media pages, advertising in general. So what we're doing is our marketing budget is zero. So, we do things, like I try and be active in different groups on Facebook, not trying to push what I'm doing, but trying to help people out who might be in a position, in a situation that I was in, 6 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago, or whatever. Knowledge is the one thing that's never going to lose value in this world. And people who are willing to share that are some of the best people in the world. Most of what I've learned, I've learned from old timers, guys that grew up in decades ago, that this is what their lives were. I pick their brains as much as I possibly can because there's things and tricks that they know that you don't hear about anymore.
Yeah, there's so much value in that, and it's tough to find people like that. But I do think this sort of crowd is willing to share that knowledge and willing to put that knowledge out there. And I don't know. Some people sometimes you share things with people and they think you're correcting them, or you're telling them they're doing it wrong or something. This crowd is so understanding of that like, this is just my experience, and this is how it worked. This is how I got things to work.
Yeah, it's one thing my wife tells me all the time is, you need to be, I'm not great with people. So like when it comes to the sales and stuff like that, my wife, soon to be wife, she actually handles the majority of that. I deal with all the, the online stuff, the website, the YouTube, all of that stuff. She deals with, when it comes to dealing with people, that's where she's strong. So I kind of try and shy away from that a little bit because I know it's a weak point of mine. I'll talk to somebody and, they'll ask a question and I go off on a 10-minute rant, which I'm pretty sure I've done here a couple of times. And I go off on a 10-minute rant, end up down rabbit holes and everything else, just with stuff I've learned, or things that people are seeing.
That's all right. That's what it's all about. Do you love freedom? Do you love songs? Do you want to love all 365 days in a year? If you're anything like me, the simple answer is yes, and Freedom Song 365 can deliver all of these things. When you sign up for Freedom Song 365, you will receive an email every day that delves into the different ways freedom and liberty are messaged in a massive catalog of music. Each message is carefully crafted into easily consumable paragraphs that give you the necessary information to share with your friends. I've been receiving Freedom Song 365 emails every day of 2019, and I have yet to be disappointed. But really, why should I be? With the fabulous minds of Nikki P. from the Sounds Like Liberty podcast, my guest from episode 4, Sherry Voluntary, and the wonderful Luke Tatum of the Culture of Peace podcast, there's more brain power utilized in the creation of each individual Freedom Song 365 email that is proffered in a whole day at any DMV across the country. Head on over to freedomsong365.com and sign up today to start receiving your daily emails of musical integrity. Use the promo code HOMESTEAD and you'll receive 15% off this superb service. Again, that's freedomsong365.com, promo code HOMESTEAD for 15% off. And back. All right, so that was episode number 31 with Josh from White Mountains Livestock. I'd be remiss if I didn't remind you that these show notes are at homesteadsandhomeschools.com/031. And when you're checking out the show notes, you can click on his links. You can go check him out on YouTube. You can go check him out on Instagram. I think I actually found him on Instagram. I saw the name and thought maybe this is one of those weird free stater guys, you know? You know, there's White Mountains in New Hampshire, if you didn't know that. But ends up he was in Arizona, and I'm glad I checked him out because he had lots of good information, lots of good stuff to share. So glad he came on. Glad you all got to hear. If you want to support the show, you can do that over at Patreon, patreon.com/libertyhippie. Leave a review on iTunes, leave a rating on iTunes. Go click over to the Amazon link, homesteadsandhomeschools.com/Amazon, and use our affiliate link for all your back to school supplies, all your willy-nilly things you need off Amazon. You know you're over there. You know you're buying stuff. So just punch one URL in and click one little imaginary button, and you're all set. It costs you nothing. Anyway, I appreciate you guys hanging out and checking out these shows. It's a fun thing, cool thing. So thanks for giving it a listen. Thanks for giving it a download. Share it with your friends. Share it with your mother. Share it with your brother. Whoever you want to share it with. But remember, get out there. Sow those seeds of liberty. We can all reap sheaves of freedom together.
I'm gonna ride us his dream. I'm gonna ride us his dream. I'm gonna ride us his dream.